Well, first of all, Don, welcome to Atlantic City.
Thank you. Thanks, David.
6,000 miles from home. You here to do a little gambling?
No.
Gambling.
Yeah.
You know, on.
To be honest with you, yeah, I like to just do it. Like to do it just for pleasure.
Well, what I was more or less referring to is gambling with something different, because people rarely see you outside of Hawaii, and this is about as far outside of Hawaii as you can get. You're 6,000 miles from home. Why all of a sudden would you decide to come and play the East Coast?
Well, you know, as they say, it's proposition you cannot refuse.
Okay. They made you the offer you couldn't refuse.
Yeah. I couldn't refuse. Besides, I always I was curious about Atlantic City.
Mm-hmm.
I was curious about, because I did Las Vegas, Reno, and I was just curious. Because I was really being encouraged by a lot of our customers to come.
The customers that you see out in Hawaii?
Yeah.
They were telling you to come to Atlantic City?
They were telling me for years
Really?
and years and years, I know I come this way. Well, I just keep telling them, send me a ticket. And I come. And they finally did.
Yeah, for what, 13 shows, though? You're doing, aren't you? It was like 12, 13 shows.
I really don't know.
You're doing a lot.
10, 9, 8. It's really no problem, because we used to working at home long hours throughout the years. When we first did it in the 60s, we would get started about 8 o'clock and get 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, you know, for years and years and years, you know.
So then doing 2 shows a day here is kind of...
Well, it was supposed to be 3 shows in those days, but we just sometimes get ornery and just run from 8 right to 3.
One show would go into
3
another.
in the morning, and our customers being lying outstairs and cussing at us and everything. You just, you know, just do something different. Get bored, do the same thing every night, right?
Mm-hmm. You went to college in the East, didn't you?
Springfield, Mass.
Springfield, Mass. A little bit of different climate than you were accustomed to, wasn't it?
Well, Springfield, Mass was recommended to me by my principal in high school, because I was sort of athletically inclined.
Mm-hmm. And he wanted to get you as far away from the island as possible.
He felt that Springfield was the best PE school in the nation. It was the best PE school in the nation. It was where basketball originated, and aside from that, the curriculum was excellent. So, what I didn't know any better. He said, "Come on, go." I enjoyed it immensely. You know, what I will always remember, my first impression about the East Coast was getting on that bus after landing in Hartford and riding on a bus to Springfield and seeing the leaves and the trees turn color. We don't have that in Hawaii. Our leaves are only green, period.
Right.
You know, but it was just awesome.
What was it like the first time it snowed?
First time it snowed very well. I was with my roommate Tom Bosworth, who lived in Lenox. And he had an overheated house, little old house in Lenox, Mass. And it started to snow one morning, and the sun was shining, and it was just gorgeous. Went outside like a kuaina, which is a hick, and just played around in the snow. It was wonderful. And also, what I never forget is that. Right around there, Pittsfield or something like Pittsfield.
Mm-hmm.
It has a big, huge houses for the rich guys. Huge mansions, right?
Right.
All closed up during the winter, right? But they needed people, they hired kids from school to rake the leaves. No problem, right? Except the leaves were taller. By the time you get through as big as buildings, never seen so many leaves in my life. It's just something new for me. That's all new stuff.
So you ended up heading back to...
And I did. I was a busboy in a lobster house in Springfield, and I learned a lot about being with people like that, and besides the good food in the kitchen. But they had a lot of Europeans working as waiters and stuff, and I'm from Hawaii, and they didn't speak good English, and I didn't understand them. And
Perfect.
We had a lot of fun. Yeah.
Right, so you went to college and studied physical education. You came out of college, you went into the Air Force as a pilot. How in the world did you end up in show business?
It's an accident. When I was a kid, I really loved my childhood because I grew up in a place in Hawaii that was really beautiful in the country, taro patches and stuff, you know. And I had that memory all my life that, you know, when I always want to go home and always live that life forever, you know. Little do we know, right, that when you go back to the place that your childhood, a lot of times the place changes right when you're away. What changed was my mother's customers got older and weren't drinking anymore, the grandparents, and the place was empty.
Your mother had a cafe, right?
We had a cafe, yeah. So when I took over the place, I took over an empty joint, right? And 1 year, lucky we made $10 a day. Swear. My father says, "Hey, listen, son, why don't you go make some music?" I just said, you got to be kidding.
Did you know anything about making music?
No, we all love music in Hawaii. Everybody in Hawaii kind of plays the ukulele, plays the guitar, and sings in the garage, and sings in groups, because we grew up with all kinds of music, see. And besides, I had grown up there during the war in my mother's place when I was a kid to the jukebox. The jukebox was constantly playing all these songs, and when I finally got into music, all of a sudden I knew all these songs in my head. And so it's an amazing thing. I knew all the songs. There were Hawaiian songs, war songs, Spatz, Mill Brothers, Frank Sinatra, Andrews Sisters, you name it. You know what I mean? What we sing here right at the Taj Mahal is very weird, because when I walk to the lobby, I see all these war machines out there.
Oh, right, they've got the World War II display here, right?
You know, and in Hawaii, when the war started, I was 11 years old, and Hawaii changed immediately from a quiet little village place to a huge military base. Every inch of ground was covered with tents, with thousands of young men from the mainland going over there to get ready to go to fight in the Pacific. So if you can imagine, it came under martial law. So we grew up in a military sense for 5 years, from 1941. But curiously, ironically, the business just mushroomed because the military was there. So the family finally made some money in the business. And like I said, the jukebox was constantly going.
Pearly shell from the ocean, shining in the sun, covering the shore. When you see them, my heart tells me that I'm more than all those little pearly shells. No way stop like money.
You're not a great singer, and you're not a great dancer, but yet you've turned into quite a wonderful entertainer to the people who come and see you, and they've been coming to see you in Hawaii for, 30 years?
Well, it's sort of like, I could probably equate it to what I feel has been successful for me is the same things that I kind of saw with Bob Hope, Johnny Carson, Ed Sullivan, F. Sinatra, and whoever, all these great guys, the greatest right people, Burl, Jack Benny, all these guys.
Sinatra recorded you on the records, didn't
he? Yeah. So I think somehow logically I figured that all these successful things had one thing in common. It was a variety show. And the only difference between me and Johnny Carson was that I sang. But we still have a great deal of variety and a great deal of interaction, which is local anyway. Hawaiian people always jump on your stage without permission, you know. A lot of times you can't kick them off because they're somebody's grandma or somebody's
Do they still
too
do that?
bigger than you
still
are.
do it today?
But it's just delightful.
Really?
Oh, yeah,
that's
they still do it today.
part of the
Oh,
Hawaiian
yeah.
culture then.
It's part of, I think, I think we invented karaoke, tell you the truth.
Really?
Yeah.
Tiny bubbles in the wine make me happy, make me feel fine. Tiny bubbles.
I can't let you go without asking you about the one song that everybody remembers you for, and that's Tiny Bubbles. Where did it come from?
Well, that was an accident. That also, we'd gone into the studio to record a song, Born Free, because the Vietnam veterans were part of our nightly people. They would come to Hawaii and hang out with us, with their
15 minutes
they
to
meet
showtime.
their wives and stuff,
15 minutes.
and hang out and have R&R, rest and recuperation, and they
Right.
became very close with us. And
15
so
minutes to showtime.
we would
15
do that
minutes.
song for them nightly, and there would be so much emotion coming from out of them because they're fighting really for what they believe, freedom and stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean? Maybe the rest of the world didn't think that, but they personally were feeling that they were doing a good thing personally. So when we sing that song, so I ran into the studio one day to record that song, called in the gang from Reprise Records, and but it was 10 o'clock in the morning, and we were hungover, and I couldn't handle it. You know, it's tough to sing that song in the morning. So I said, oh, well, I forget the session. I started to walk out. Sonny Burke, who was wonderful, wonderful man. He's the one recorded us live. Sonny said, Don, do this song, please. I said, Sonny, I really don't like that song. He said, Don, just sit down on the piano and do the song. So I sat down, did it, one take, walked out, and that was it. And Sonny knows his business. You know, he had it all over the country in about 2 weeks.
Were you surprised by
I
the
was
success?
very surprised. I just couldn't believe it. Every city, major city had it. And that we were compelled to go on tour then.
How far east did you get on that tour?
All the way.
Oh, really?
We came to New York.
Okay.
Raw Box, Texas Place. And the Waldorf Astoria and Empire Room in Chicago and concert halls and so forth, so on, you know.
Now, 25 years later, Atlantic City.
I tell you what, that song, I should go on my knees and make a shrine for that song. God, people come not so much for anything else except that, I think.
So you have no problem being stereotyped and like forever entwined with Tiny Bubble. That doesn't bother you.
My goodness, how can you? It's like money in the bank, right?
Every time you sing that song, you hear the cash register.
Well,
Right?
not really, but you know what I mean.
I sure do.
It keeps food on the table.
I know you got a show to do. We heard the 15-minute call. That was about 5 minutes ago, Don Ho. Welcome to Atlantic City. Continued success.
Thank you, David. Thanks for the time.
With a feeling that I'm gonna love to end the time. You sing first all together. Tiny bubbles, you believe in the wild. Cabana makes it happy. Oh, holy, make me feel fine. Cabana, tiny bubble, make me warm all over. With a feeling that I'm gonna love you to the end of time. With a feeling, everybody. With a feeling that I'm gonna love you. The end of time. Thank you very much. Good singing, good singing. That's our biggest hit, Tiny Bubble. We do that every night, 30 years, every single night. I hate that song.